Have you heard the one where I was married before? Oh, Corrine, don't tell that story. It's just too personal. I can't believe you're selling it. Does Josh know? Oh, okay, everybody relax. I'm going to tell this story. And yeah, it's personal. And I probably won't be crying on this one, just a heads up. Okay, so dating. For me in Texas, when I was there, I had some boyfriends here and there. It was awkward. I got hurt. I became very cold when it came to dating. I was harsh. I felt like if I cared about them, then they would leave, or I don't even think I internalized that, but I was not wanting any commitments. So in turn, I would constantly be choosing men or boys that did not want to commit. And like, it just kind of was. When I was in Texas, I left, my boyfriend to move to New Jersey. And I just, wasn't kind about it. I just was like, yeah, okay, bye. And like my roommate in New Jersey, he would like sing, "You're a mean one, Corinne Q," and then I don't know why everything's about song because my dad would be like, "You're cold-hearted," but I just did not like have those capabilities for committing as of yet. And like boys would be like, "Oh, don't fall in love with me," and I'd be like, "Don't worry," and I meant it. And it didn't really start to shift and change until I met Eric. Yeah, I'm using his real name. It's fine. We were married. I think there's like files on it in the world, so I can't really hide that. But one of the things that I would like to put out there is people tell you exactly who they are when you first meet them, and we should believe them. And I remember when I first met Eric, he was like, "Oh, don't fall in love with me." And I just took it as like every other guy. But he's like, "I'm no good. I'm no this, I'm no that." And he was telling me, you know, who he was. But I didn't believe him. He was Latin. He was, a dancer, a singer, a musician. He had abs. And we just hit it off really well. So this was in the circle of Johnny Rocketeers. And, we came to be like boyfriend and girlfriend, and we did everything together. I did everything for him. And I wouldn't say that I lost myself. And that's one thing I want people to start to maybe in relationships recognize. It's like, oh, she really lost who she was. It's like, I have to take responsibility and say, well, no, I didn't lose who I was. I just found a side of myself that was, darker, a side of myself that I just did not, it just probably would not be a good path for me to continue on. If, that was a fork in the road and I chose that direction, it would probably not have ended well. But I didn't do anything I didn't want to do. I didn't, you know, lose myself. Because if I lost myself, then I couldn't take responsibility for all the things that I did. Well, Al, my dad, did not like him. He kept going, "What is this kid, retarded?" And I'm like, "You can't say that. Like, you can't say that." But I mean, he was Al. My mom loved him. And I remember when April Fool's, like I took one of my mom's rings and I pretended that like Eric and I were getting married, and I was like punking Al. Oh, and he was like, "This is a mistake. This is like, little did I know, just months later, things would change." So during our relationship, Eric's father passed, and it was very sudden, and it bonded us in a way. because he was in need of companionship and love, and I loved him. And so I was there, and I was there for his family, and I love his mother. She still sends me Christmas cards. And so it's like when we maybe tried to, separate, or, we were in our 20s, if he wanted to do this or he wanted to do that, I kind of was, trying to keep up that feeling of like, don't don't fall for him. Don't love him too much. Don't don't really want that commitment, because you're probably not going to get it. So as that was happening, his father passed, and it sucked us right back together. And I remember there was a night, and Eric, was very serious. He liked, he did a lot of funny things. Like, he would look at the camera that didn't exist, kind of like, Jim from The Office. So he'd be like, I don't know, I can't even do it, but he'd be like, I don't know, I can't do it. But I could tell he was serious. And so this was like one night after, we'd probably been together a year or so. And, but of course it was off and on, because don't get attached. And he said, I have something to say. I have something to tell you, and it's really important. And I'm like, oh, is it that you kissed this one girl? Because I already knew about that. And he was like, he looked into the camera and was like shocked that I knew that. But he was like, no, that's not it. And looking back, like, there were some red flags, like that was how was I okay with him doing this and doing that? I don't know why I was okay with it. Mainly because I probably wasn't ready to commit. And he said, no, that's not it. He said, I need to marry someone. And I said, I don't want him to go back to Ecuador. And I loved him, and we were in a relationship, and I could not lose him. And so I said, I'll do it. So we got married in his kitchen with my mom as a witness and one other girl that eventually he was like, I think at the time even maybe he was sleeping with her. So it was like 50% of the witnesses was like he was dating. But as soon as we went through the ceremonies, it didn't change our relationship. We were still together. I mean, he got a rash and he got really freaked out. And he's like, we're in our 20s. This is crazy. And it bothered me that it bothered him, but it didn't bother me so much as it should. And then my mom passed. And so it's like, again, those feelings of like dispersing in our relationship. And then this death comes, and it just sucked us back together. And I remember, we had to go to, the meetings. And when they had questions about our love, I didn't lie. I loved him. And he loved me too. He just had a weird way of showing it. And I don't think he ever really understood love. And I was okay with that, which I know is not what I'm okay with now. And after my mom passed, priorities started to get, jumbled up, and things started to get straight and right in my head. And I remember we took a walk up to the Weehawken skyline of New York. And I remember being there with him, And it was rocky. It was a rocky road. I think it probably had been a while since, my mom had passed. But I felt the urgency of life. Like when you lose somebody, you really understand how life is so short, and how if you want something, we should go towards it. And I remember asking him, I said, Eric, like, look, why don't we really give this a try? We're already married. Like, why don't we live together, like, for real, and like just try it? And he said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And that's when I was done. And that's the phoenix in me. That's the burn it down. I'm over. I'm done. And I was done. So what happened next was I completely severed and started dating. I dated the clamp. I call him the clamp because he was like, hey, but he was the opposite of Eric. He was, showing me love and affection and giving me space and time to grow. And he wrote a song about me too. So it's like Eric, I don't know what it is, but I've had 4 songs written about me. And one was by Eric, and then one was by the clamp. And that's why I broke up with him. I was like, oh, yeah, because it was something about commitment and how I can't commit. And I'm like, oh, God, please, I'm done. And so after the clamp came Josh. And this was different. I became a person who wanted commitment, and I was ready for it. And I needed a man. And so all these boys, I was done with them. So about the time we just began a relationship, Josh and I told Josh immediately what was going on. And by this time I had already gotten the divorce. We had already been divorced because, we were good. And so Josh knew right away before our relationship even began what my past was. So I remember about the time we just started dating, Eric started sniffing around again. And I was still working at Johnny Rockets, and I remember being like, oh, so distraught. Like, what is going on? Why is he coming at me yet? Like, I'm just trying to start to be happy again. And then I kind of talked to a girl and that I thought was my friend, and I was like kind of divulging like, oh, Eric is trying to get back with me, and I'm like with Josh, and this is like, I don't know what to do. Like, what do I say? What do I do? And needless to say, she was dating him at the time. She was with him at the time, and so that did not probably feel good to her. But then I had one other friend come to me and say, maybe you should, really think about this or talk about this to somebody else. I'm like, oh, okay. Oblivious. I was oblivious. I didn't know. So I talked to my girl, Joanne, and we were close friends. She had lost her father. So it was like, Eric lost his father. I lost my mom. She lost her father. She was my roommate. I was like the maid of honor in her wedding. Like, we were tight. That's her restaurant. But I am grateful for her in this instance because we sat down and she was honest, where a lot of people, I felt, never told me what. And part of it is that I was oblivious and I shouldn't have been. But throughout my whole relationship with him, there were other women and friends and constant. But I, chose not to see it, or I chose not to have it affect the relationship while we were in it. I don't know where the blindness came in, but Joanne opened that all up and she's like, look, here was the situation the whole time. I'm like, oh. Then I started to think back and be like, wow, I should have really probably recognize that as the truth. But, I didn't, and so it's funny how we see what we want to see. And it takes a good friend to be like, wake up. And so I do appreciate her and her honesty through that situation. And it was really awesome because eventually Josh and I and Joanne were all three roommates together at the same time. And that was before, we got engaged. So she got to see the engagement ring, I think, and it was great how she was really a part of that that transition, and how she helped me through. It's not that I was going back, but sometimes you just need that clarity to open your eyes to see how much you deserve. Because it's like my demons were attracted to his demons, and his demons were attracted to mine, and they would have lived happily ever after together. But I deserved someone better, someone who loved me, not my demons. So, yeah, I was married twice, but it was really this marriage that I got going on now that was the real deal.